Hi, it's Chelsey again. Sorry that I seemed so off earlier. I found out that my kid's dad is not coming tonight, so I found them some stuff to do, and of course they're, upset, but he'll supposedly be here in the morning, so we're just going to wait. That's what having an ex-husband is like, but, I'm single right now, and some part of it I'm choosing to be. I was in this relationship recently, and we were taking a tiny break after being together for a whole year, and he actually had a stroke. It hit his brain, and he was literally paralyzed from chin down. So, well, actually more than that, because he couldn't talk for months, actually. I think that he can just say a few words now, but his mom, even though we're adults and I'm 32, his mom figured that, it would be better. She's a nurse, and she was worried about him being embarrassed, about having all this medical stuff done in front of me, so I didn't know what to do. He couldn't talk, and they kind of pushed me out of his life, so what are you going to do? But I told y'all that I would talk about some really meaningful things, and I know that in my first video I was a little bit of a clown, and that's not really who I am. I mean, yeah, I'll get silly, and people, when they watch videos, they're like, what is he going to do next, or what is he going to do next, and it's all about entertainment, and I get that. But I just want to see if just maybe, y'all will watch something because it's real, because it's about a real person, a real person's life, without some, I have no producers, I have no extra camera lighting. Right now I'm not even wearing makeup, to try to show you how sexy I am. Did I say that I was sexy, by the way? You know it. Okay. But anyway, my point is that I just feel like I've gone through a lot of shit, and I could really share. I mean, I'm going through things right now. For instance, I was in a horrible car accident when I was 16 years old, and it led me to have PTSD for a long time. A lot of people claim to have PTSD, but how many of them actually have it, I have no idea. But let me just say, most of them actually don't. It's very rare. It's very rare that someone actually has PTSD and takes something very, very traumatic in their lives to happen to them, for them to actually have it. And, well, for one, my first time that I ever went through any kind of horrible shock from actually seeing something that repeated in my mind over and over and over and over in my brain. Well, actually, it was kind of like a movie. I would only get one clip of the movie in my brain, and then it would play over and over and over until one night I would remember another clip to the movie. And that's kind of what PTSD is, although there's actually two types. There's that type that I just explained to you, and the other type, which is what I'm going through now, where you remember just about the whole movie, but in portions, just like a real, actual flashback happening in front of you. First time I had one, I almost ran my car off the road. The funny part was, it was a flashback about a horrible car accident I was in when my boyfriend was driving when I was 16, and there I was having it while I was driving years later, and it almost killed me. So it's very ironic. But anyway, the first time though, I was 13, and something traumatic happened. I'm not gonna lie. I had sex with my brother's best friend. I was 13 years old, and everybody was so mad, of course mad at me. I'm my brother who was ready to put on war paint and go after the dude that did it, but I had to explain, and of course it sounded like I was trying to protect the guy that I had sex with, but a lot of people don't understand. Yes, a girl will go to a girlfriend if she's been raped or if she's been involved in a sexual act when they're too young. But 90% of the time, they will not go to the police about it. One, because they feel like it was their fault and that they wanted to do it and that they were in love. And two, they don't want their private life out there. And they certainly don't want to look across from a courtroom at the person that they had this sexual act with, whether it was consent or not. It's embarrassing. First thing people say is, why didn't you go to the police? Well, I just told you. But the reason why I did this was because I was raped when I was 11. And everyone was so surprised to hear this. I came from a privileged family. My father was a life insurance salesman for families. And, well, he has now been for 44 years with the same company, which I will not name. We always had good money, and I felt like I was always going to have the future that my father always wanted me to have. A lot of judges say that when a girl gets raped, usually it's because she put herself in the wrong position. And in this case, the judge would be right. However, what happened to me was still wrong. And the person that did it to me was very wrong, knew that what he was doing was wrong, and he should have paid a huge price for it. And way later on, something actually did happen to him that was not in my hands at all. It's done by somebody else I won't name. I mean, it's just told that it happened, and I will never know if it actually did, but I have a feeling because this person never messed with me again, not even to find out if I was ever going to tell on him or not, because my rapist actually had to give me a ride home, and I will always remember it was the longest ride home of my life. There is nothing like having to sit in the back seat of your rapist's car, let me tell you. But it was one of my first times sneaking out. I'm 11 years old, and a friend of mine had just started driving. She only had her permit, but she snuck the car out, came and picked me up. And the reason why my mom allowed me and trusted me to hang out with older people was because she saw that I was older inside. She saw that I was more mature than my age, and she didn't feel like I was in any harm. She trusted me. And that's actually why I ended up not telling my parents about it, because they trusted me. They trusted me to make the right decisions based on what they taught me, based on how I acted towards them, and I wasn't manipulating them. How I acted towards them was who I was. But, like they always say, how do you know how you would act until you're actually put in a situation to act, right? But anyway, fact of it all is that I got in the car with her and her brother. It was probably about 11 o'clock at night, and they were just going to take me over to somewhere in the ghetto to buy some weed. No big deal. I had been in the ghetto a few times, with some other friends that had bought some weed, and I thought I was going to get to wait in the car, and they'd just come back, but no. The guy said, would y'all like to come in? And my friend said, we just want to get this done and over with, and for you to give us a ride back home. And he said, no problem. Next thing I know, I was, dragged into the house, and I couldn't even turn on a light because all the light bulbs were busted out. So obviously this was planned. I don't know if he planned to get me, but I do remember at some point in the conversation, she let him know, well, I do have a friend with me, and I don't think that she was pimping me out because she had to pay for what she was getting, so it's not like she was getting anything out of it. And not only that, but she had been a good friend to me for a really long time. And I know that she felt bad because years and years later she called and she said, listen, I know you haven't heard from me, but I just have to tell you how sorry I am for that night. She said, I think about you sometimes. And I told her, I said, I forgive you. It's okay, you know? But anyway, but there was bars on the windows, and he just took me. He just took me. And the funny part was, it lasted 3 minutes, but those 3 minutes were so long. I remember screaming in pain and nobody caring. I remember even hearing a gunshot somewhere in the neighborhood, which made me realize I am not in Wonderland anymore, because it was not like any of the neighborhoods I had ever lived in. His mother was in a shift working at Waffle House, so there was no parental units around. And it was scary. It was really scary. So pretty much what I want to tell you is that I wrote a novel once, and it was a biography about my wife. And it ended up getting burned from somebody that thought that they hated me, and that's going to be another time for another story. Another story for another time, but the fact of it all is that that novel was going to be published. And because it was the only copy, and because it was burned, and because I was never able to have it published except for some poems and one biography, I am still wanting to use my experience to try to help other people come to terms with what maybe they've gone through, because maybe they can relate to what I've gone through, and maybe I can relate to what they've gone through. So feel free to look me up on Facebook. I'll always say at the end of my video that it's the same name, Tuscaloosa, Alabama, Chelsey Hallo, and it's spelled the same way for my YouTube videos. Thank you, and have a good night. This is my second video, and I just didn't want to finish the first one the way I did. I wanted y'all to have something else to watch in case y'all did click play on it and think, oh my god, you know, this girl, is she for real? Thinking that she could possibly be entertaining, but put it this way, you know, I went to therapy, and I did see some psychiatrists growing up. And, well, it's not an experience that I want to remember, because I would say, so, well, what do you think? And I would kind of turn it into a joke, and they would say, well, you really want to know what I think? And I'm like, yeah, I want to know what you think. And they say, can I be honest with you? Don't you do anything stupid? And I'm like, depends. And they were like, I've had clients that maybe have had one of the tragic things that you were talking to me about having had happen in your life. And they didn't make it to the age of 40. And I'm like, what do you mean? And they all said the same thing. They killed themselves. So, I don't know if it was mean or... but it can't be a coincidence that they all said that after years of experience. So, but you know what? I had to find something good out of that. I had to realize that there is something good in this that God brought out of this, because I am still here for a reason. And I believe it's to help people that have either gone through the same things that I have, or that are going through them now. And maybe they'll get something out of this. I know where I am, and I will see you soon. Good night.